them and a little bit of a look into their history. So this is called Small Houses, Big History, and we're looking at the bungalow colony that's located on Stone, Hueber, and Bower Courts at the other end of town. This is one of the first maps that was drawn. It's dated May 8th, 1916, and it was called the Stone Harbor Bungalow Colony Incorporated. Started by the Risley brothers, who started the town, but they set it up as its own little entity. And that shows all the little lots that they drew. It didn't quite end up that way. It looks more like this. So you can see where there's yellow, they would allow a house to be built, and then every other lot is left empty, so there's room next door. Most of the bungalow owners who've put something next door, like another building and a second floor, are glad that the Risleys left that space open. But that's how they encouraged it to be laid out. So it's bordered by 2nd and 3rd Avenue on the east and the west, and it runs from 108th to 111th Street. So that is the original layout of the colony. The one big building in the back there was called the Tea House. There's some question whether or not the Stonemen, who ended up owning much of this, ran a restaurant out of there. I've never heard them say that, but that did operate as a restaurant for years. So that's how the Risleys saw it being laid out. That's an aerial view from 1917 of it finished. They started in about 1915, built some in 1916, and finished in 1917. I honestly have no idea how they got an aerial picture in 1917, because there's no water tower. The Harbor Inn was at the other end of town, which is where all the aerial shots were taken from. So I guess a balloon, or maybe Marshall Reed did land his plane on the beach. Maybe he went over, but that is the layout. And you can see they staggered them so that you're not looking directly at a house across from you, and you have a lot on either, well, some room on either side of you. You can see there's the basin back there, 3rd Avenue and 2nd Avenue. So that gives you some idea the beach is this way. They were built from north to south over 2 years. So they started and built the first 2, and then the next summer they built Stone Court and completed it. I drove up and down, well, I counted 84 in there. I drove up and down and decided there were 78 of them still standing. Not all of them look the way they were built. I counted some of the new houses because it's hard to know if it might not be under there. But I think about 78 survive. It's some number similar or close to that. All right, here's the history from 1908 to 1935. So it starts out with the Risleys buying the town from 83rd Street, basically down to the point, from Avalon Realty. And they started Stone Harbor with the Harbor Inn and moved this way. The bungalows were said to be built around the time of 1908, and some of the times we've heard, I believe it's much later, actually 1916 is when they started. And they say it was the house of people who came to build the town. Well, by 1916, the town was well built. The bridge opened in 1912. The town went way past it. They would have needed housing much earlier, and the housing was up in the 80s and back on 3rd Avenue, where they had the horses that leveled the dunes and stuff. These were built, I think, for a very different reason. April 24th, 1916, the Stone Harbor Bungalow Colony was incorporated, and the map that hangs right on that wall is dated May 8th. So I believe that's the year they started, and they started building in the summer of 1916. The Stone Harbor Herald announced the formation of something called the Stone Harbor Assembly, and that was that 3 layout design, and of the proposed Ocean Pier, which was at the end of the boardwalk. And basically, from the bungalows as you walk to the beach, it was right there on the boardwalk and the pier. That came in a 1916 ad in the Stone Harbor Herald. Completed homes were put up for sale in 1917, and at least one auction was advertised to be held on July 28, 1917, because the Risleys were trying to sell these. 41 bungalows were finally sold to the Stonemen in 1917, but out of the 80 some, the Risleys held on, or the town or someone held on to more than half. So the Stonemen did settle there, but they didn't take over the whole thing. And we found a 1921 article stating that all 80 bungalows were for rent to members of the American Legion, and you had a certain date that you could RSVP for them, otherwise they would be put up for rent to anyone who wanted to rent them. So whether or not the Stonemen said try and rent ours out for us, because they were still here in the 20s, I don't really understand what that 1921 article is advertising, but 80 is the number that they claimed existed at the time, which is pretty close to the number I think were built. The Stonemen disappeared right at the beginning of the Depression, and whatever they owned and whoever owned them, we believe that the town took most of them back because they stopped paying. Then they were put up for sale, and then they became private. And that's what they've been since. So here's the early built. Why were they built? So there's various theories. Housing the construction worker is one you'll see in print. I disagree with that. My theory is that the Risley's wanted to benefit from the enormous popularity in the 1890s and 1900s. Now we're in 1917, so the Risleys are a little late, but they didn't get here until 1908, of something called the Chautauqua movement. I don't know if you know what that is, but it was people who would go to live in nature, among nature, in a camp setting where they would do all kinds of things. It was quasi-religious, there would be learning, there would be community, but you had to have somewhere for the communal thing. So think about Ocean Grove with that huge auditorium. That's much more religious, but that was the reason for the pier. They needed somewhere to go, and they needed housing. So those were the little bungalows. So the Chautauqua movement is just generally described as religious-based living arrangements that provided spiritual, educational, recreational, athletic, cultural, and communal experiences. They were controlled and they attracted the right sort, and you will see the ads say, limited access, the right people will live here. And so the town, the town hadn't been formed just yet. It was 1914 when they were formed, and the Risleys formed something called the Stone Harbor Assembly. They were going to start their own Chautauqua movement, was the idea. That never happened, but that was the thought. Here's an article that appears in the Stone Harbor Herald in 1916. The tendency of the most desirable class of summer visitors, those who are calculated to do more than any others to build up a community, is to combine recreation with instruction, amusement with education. Out-of-door sports and pastimes are necessary factors of resort life, but if to those be added some plan by which useful knowledge may be gained simultaneously with the acquisition of health and pleasure, then indeed has the ideal in resort development been reached. It is precisely to accomplish this that the Stone Harbor Assembly has been formed. It will be formed of residents and visitors desiring to avail themselves of the educational, religious, and recreation features proposed to be given by the Assembly. It will annually conduct a 9-week gathering from July 1st to early September, giving complete lecture and instruction courses in each 2 weeks period. So this is advertising it in 1916 as they were being built. I think this was in March. Assembly housing arrangements. A great deal of thought has been given to adequate housing arrangements for those who desire to avail themselves of the Assembly's summer courses. It is believed this problem has been solved by the type of bungalow designed and erected at Stone Harbor last spring in 1915. So now we can establish exactly when they were built. 50 of these buildings were erected. Now remember, there's 84 in total, so they only built 2 streets. The 3rd street came another year after it proved to be popular. 50 of these buildings were erected and occupied during the past summer, so the past summer would be 1916. And 100 more could have been filled had it been possible to build them in time for last season. The Risleys were nothing. Well, Katie, what does it? Is it back?
No.
All right. Where is our technical support? The Risleys were nothing if they weren't great promoters. So the next line saying we could have built at least 100 more had we had them ready in time is probably an exaggeration, but they were very good at that. The fame of the Stone Harbor Bungalow Colony has spread far and wide. The popularity of these charming summer houses was so instantaneous, I can hear the Risleys in my head, that the project was the most unique innovation in seashore real estate development that the South Jersey coast has witnessed in many a day. These bungalows were built on Block 108 and 109, and it is proposed to build others of a similar and also of an enlarged type. They did build on Block 110, but they did not build anything of an enlarged type. They are all exactly the same size. So it was a 12 by 24 foot structure, and the marketing is phenomenal. Built like a yacht for space, conservation, and utility.
That's pretty cool.
The Ford automobile of seashore realty. Offered at an initial cost somewhere between $900 and $1,200. They were all identical, so I'm not sure why the range, unless they started at $1,200 and they weren't popular enough, so they dropped it. I'm not sure why there's a range. And if you were going to buy one, it's a great investment because you could rent it out for $10 to $18 a week or for $150 a whole season. This is the plan that the Stonemen put out after they bought 40 of the cottages. So this is a little later, but it shows you, you walk in to a living porch, there's a dining room, a kitchen, a shower bath, and one bedroom behind. That was the layout. What they managed to fit into a 12 by 24. This is from the marketing materials. These bungalows, convenient to channel and bathing beach, are complete in every detail, except a lot of space. Electric lighted, sanitary sewerage, and daintily furnished with white enamel bed, 2 woven wire spring mattresses, mattress cots, and linen couch covers.
Graham, we're losing you again.
Well, I don't know what I...
There's a button
Is
there.
there a button?
Right there, but it doesn't...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back on?
Hello, yes.
All right.
Yeah, wait, you need the red button.
All right. 2 woven wire spring mattress cots and linen couch covers, 4 Crex rugs.
Wait, shut it off again, Graham.
That explosion, turn it off. A dining table, center table, rocking and straight chairs, quartered oak bureau with plate glass mirror, shirtwaist box, complete shower bath.
If you can hold it closer to your mouth, that would be good.
Okay, all right. It keeps going off. I don't know what I'm doing. Plate glass mirror, shirtwaist box, complete shower bath, porcelain lavatory, vitreous china closet, window shades, wickless blue flame oil stove, Russian iron oven, ice chest, cooking utensils, and dishes. So that's what they got into a 12 by 24. Because the Chautauqua group meeting needs somewhere to meet, the Stone Harbor Assembly also proposed to build the Ocean Pier. So they proposed to build something that was 225 feet long, 50 feet wide, at the base of block number 105, and the cost not to exceed $30,000. There was going to be 7 rooms on the second floor to be rented as stores, offices, or classrooms. The auditorium at the end of the pier would be 66 feet wide with a stage, dressing rooms, et cetera, et cetera. That is where the Stonemen met when they ended up buying some of the bungalows and having their meeting. That's what the pier was proposed to look like when the assembly, that's a drawing that we made. When the Stonemen were promoting it, that's the drawing they used. This was built and lasted until the 1944 storm. There were times in the 20s when the aerial photos showed that it was practically destroyed by the hurricanes, so it went back and forth between being useful, successful. The Women's Civic showed movies in it, so it did get used, and the town, you know, it was a major part of the recreation, but it was started for this bungalow colony. So they would have somewhere to meet. Now we're going to stay on?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. All right. So this is an ad trying to get you to buy one of these. A limited number of desirable families are invited to cooperate in forming a pleasant summer colony. Specifically designed, fully furnished bungalows, an improvement on those of Pittman and Ocean Grove. Okay, so Stone Harbor was the last development from all the way north, all the way to Cape May. It was the last seashore town, so they could compare themselves to everyone else. It was a key marketing ploy that the Risleys used, because they would say, look at all the money people made in Cape May or in Ocean City or in Atlantic City. Here's your last chance to invest in oceanfront property. And so they were always saying, well, we're better because we've learned from everyone else we're better, so we're better than Pittman and Ocean Grove. I know what's in Ocean Grove. It's still that big assembly, and it's still a very controlled retreat kind of camp. I don't know what was in Pittman, but that's what they could compare themselves to. And they remind you that accommodations are limited and references are required. Here's another advertisement. So this was auctioning 7 bungalows over a week period, one a day, from 2 to 6 p.m., August 19th to September 4th, except for Sunday. They mentioned that they rented this year for $128. They were originally priced at $1,200, offered to desirable families at their own price, which I think is probably not true. I mean, there was obviously a minimum, I would think. References are required of each buyer in order to conserve the high standard of this colony. So they talk about how ingenious they are, how well laid out they are, contain electric lights, and here they claim, and I read you everything they said was in it, 73 pieces of furniture and utensils, which I think is counting every knife and fork. But they're always, Henry Ford, they're always comparing themselves to a Ford. So they end up with the man who buys a Ford or Overland automobile because of their moderate price, low maintenance costs, and general utility will find these bungalows their counterpart in the field of seaside real estate. So that was more of the Risleys trying to sell these. This is the promotional brochure showing what a finished cottage would look like. Again, the layout. They show the floor plan. And Dorr Newton was listed as the local real estate agent. His home still stands on 95th Street. It's a gray house, and the roof is covered with solar panels. You can't miss it as you come over the bridge. And he's the local contact if you'd like to buy one of these. This is put out by the Stone Harbor Bungalow Colony, so this is before the Stonemen bought, when the town was still trying to get this going on their own. Here's another auction ad. This shows what a finished one actually looks like. Now we're past the drawing. This is what you'll get. And they again mentioned how much you could rent it for, how much they were when they were bought, when they were originally priced, but we don't have any record, and I haven't found, of what they actually sold for at this auction. But it would be interesting to see. So now we're almost halfway through the summer of 1917, and they're desperately auctioning these things off. The Stonemen come along in 1917 and buy 41 of them, so at least the town has gotten rid of half. So the Stonemen was another one of these quasi-religious groups that sprung up out of nowhere and disappeared, not as quickly, because they went from 1917, or they were around here in 1917. They disappeared in 1930. I'm sure they were before that. They existed before that. They started something called the Stonemen's Bungalow Colony, so they renamed it, and then you had to become a member of the Stonemen, and then you joined the Stonemen's Vacation Club. They purchased 41 of these, and they're showing what you would get if you rent one of these from.
They added awnings.
Yeah, I think you'll see it in one of the next pictures that they were original to the building. That's what you would get. There's the folder to hold your card. It's signed by Mr. Stone himself. And right here for 1917, they've punched out, this guy has bought that week of July. And it's contract number 41, so I don't know how many of these they actually sold. We are extraordinarily lucky to have had this donated to us last year in the Davis collection, so now we know what a Stonemen membership contract looked like. And that was what you would get, and you would have to bring that to prove that you were a member. So they sold them to the Stonemen and they managed them, but they went on renting them forever. There's an ad from 1918, one from 1922, and one from 1943. So these were rented by, and we know they were rented by the Ripleys because it's rented by South Jersey Realty Company in 1918. That's who built them and started the town. By 1943, the Ripleys were long gone. But somebody was offering bungalow in Bungalow Colony. Month of July, all cons, accommodates for $85 phone, Camden 1720J. So that's a 1943 ad. 1930 comes along, the Stonemen disappear and are dissolved. They go out of business, and Mr. Stone disappears. We can't find him in any newspapers. He must have moved off or died or something. The movement disappeared as fast as it came, but at one time it had 10,000 members. So it was one of those things that became enormously popular and then wasn't. The town may have repossessed some or all of the Stonemen's possessions at that time, and they would have sold them to the general public. some bungalow owners say that the records of the town is that it was built in 1932, 34, 35, because it's when the town seized it. It is not when it was built. But there are buildings in town where the town says, well, that's when it entered our tax record, so that's the year they assigned to it, which isn't really accurate. What they looked like when they were built. All right, we found in our archives this picture of something they call Utica Hall. That's what the owners called it, and they are proudly flying the Union Jack. I believe that's the earliest known photograph of any one of these built. There's nothing around it. The striped awnings are there. And the strange thing is the Risleys built this, and the one thing they did was they took a photograph of every single building as it was being built and sent it to anyone who was interested to show that this was not just buying an empty, barren sand lot. There were other people who were willing to live here and invest and build. There are no construction photographs, and Paul Davis bought the photograph albums from the Risleys from some yard sale of every one of these buildings being built, which is why we have such incredible pictures of houses being built in 1908, 1909, laying the pipes, those building the water tower, all those ones that are in the front. There are none of building these, none. So they must not have been that important. They may not have been, I don't know, but that we know that that's what they look like when completed. So if you live down there, it was dirt roads and striped awnings. There's not a lot of bushes around. There's not much there. I honestly don't know when the roads were paved, but probably not for quite a while. But that's what it looked like living in the bungalow colonies. These people have managed to put some stones around and start a little front planting, so I would guess this might be the 20s. The Spell family has given us their photographs, and there are mother-daughter standing in front of their house. So you can see kind of asbestos tile roof. Very likely the white is tar paper that is held on with tacked on strips of wood. That's the outside sleeping porch. There were side entrances, thank goodness, because it would get kind of tight. I think if everybody was trying to get out the front door, maybe never everybody wouldn't have made it. But that's what they looked like probably within 5 to 6 years of being built. Still pretty basic, no street. The bushes that are growing up is what Mother Nature has put back. I don't think anybody did a lot of landscaping at the time. So that's unimproved, unadded to, as built. There's one with a little more of Mother Nature coming back, but this is August 1925. They haven't added anything to this one yet either. So we've gotten as far as 25. There's a pole, so there's electricity there. There's an old cedar tree right in front, which I would have thought would have been cleared for the building, but it's still there. And it looks pretty wild. It was an incredibly popular thing to show because not a lot of people had a small community of bungalows like this. So not surprisingly, if you're a postcard collector, it's a really popular subject. And there are postcards galore of these bungalow colonies, different. Like that's a fairly early one. That's later with some flowers planted. That's the tea house back on 3rd Avenue, but it was at the end of one of the bungalow streets. You can see the colony runs down there and runs over that way. Other photographs. It was just a very, very popular thing to appear in postcards, and there are probably at least 20 to 30 ones. I just picked the 6 for that.
Green roofs, red roofs.
The LeBeau family gave us their photographs, and they obviously didn't have enough room, so they added onto that extra lot. So they built, I would guess, 2 bedrooms, 1 bedroom and another bath. I don't really know what's in there. But there they are proudly standing in front of their improved bungalow. I don't know the date of that, but from the clothing, I would say 20s, late 20s. But they added an entire extra room, or maybe 2. Life in the bungalow colony. Fortunately, the Spells and the LeBeaus gave us tons of photographs, and so we have a very sporty-looking young woman in knickers or culottes and a tie standing in the street. And this is the Spell family either arriving for the summer or leaving, but they're very likely that might be their house behind. But they stopped to take a picture with all their belongings, their car, and the bungalows behind. And you know, Dad had to wear a tie to drive down to the beach. This one was dated 1930 and located on Bower Court. So this is what they look like a little later. Probably some very sharp-eyed person could look at the car and tell me exactly when it was built so you can figure out when this is. But you can see they haven't changed a lot. Still black tar paper on the side. Neither of the ones here have had any additions. Certainly no one's put on a second floor yet. That's coming much later. But that's them as they get through the 30s. The roofs have been replaced. Those asbestos tiles are no longer there. But they kind of soldiered on. This one looks like it's on the original blocks. Those people must have raised it and put in an actual foundation. So people started doing things to it as they realized it was going to be their life. So for really efficiently built bungalows where they didn't splash out on anything, they put 4 incredibly ornate brackets on the corner of every single one of these. There's one unrenovated house, but it doesn't exist on there. But I think I found one in my antiquing. I believe that was taken off one of the bungalows because I think it matches.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, I bought it anyway. But I think that is from there. So you can see that's a picture from the original. That's got the original diamond tiles, which is still on that one house. So life in the bungalow colony went on. The Stone men disappeared, people lived there, and it became like any other little neighborhood in Stone Harbor. People had block parties, people had kids, they had grandchildren, they added to them, they put on second floors. Some were torn down and replaced completely within the footprint because the lot didn't get any bigger. And amazingly, they survived the Depression, World War II, the post-war building boom when Diller and Fisher couldn't help but put a Cape Cod on every single empty lot. And I think the small size of the lots protected them from being built with anything else because really a 12 by 24 is all that's going to fit. And they've even survived the current building boom. Because every time you drive up and down a street, some house is gone. But these things tend to soldier on. They do have additions to the side, additions up, but they're still there. And I think about 70 of them still exist. So I said my count is 3/4 of the original buildings stand today in some form or another. When you buy a ticket for the house tour, be sure to look for the one unaltered house. It's got a lot of bushes in front of it, but you can still see the roof. It's at E19 on Stone Court. It is, I don't know what it's like inside, but the outside looks just like the photographs that I showed you. So you've seen the outside and heard a little bit about the history. Robin Stiles is giving you the chance to go through them on June 27th from noon to 4. It's a staggered walking tour of 8 homes. We will be here at the museum answering questions and serving refreshments, but it's at the other end of town. Robin will give you all the information about where to park and how to go through them in a staggered fashion so everyone doesn't show up at the same place. And we are selling tickets here. So I think that is it. So I know we have at least one resident who lives in 2 of them, and we may have others. Yeah, so.
Do you know what the Priestley brothers originally paid for that property?
No. When they bought Stone Harbor, I do not know. I'm sure we could find out. What's?
Barb Weir's right in front of me.
Claire.
Claire does.
Claire's on Bower, Barbara's our next door neighbor on Stone, Crystal and Ed are on Stone, on Bower.
There you go. Any questions? I mean, I can try the history. Robin can tell you about the life. Yeah.
I lived in E19,
Oh, okay.
and it is still the same as when I sold it in 1978.
Okay.
Nothing had been done to it before, and you need to go in it. You need to go,
Yeah, every time I drive by, I hope it's gonna be
you never see anybody.
at least updated in terms of being stable, but I hope that the owners don't change it dramatically, but I'm not sure what you're allowed
They
to do.
have
now.
not
They
since
take
like,
the screens off and redo them exactly the way they were.
Okay, well, maybe they can hang this back up on the corner.
and the neighbor to Ed and Crystal,
Okay,
was Hazel and Joe.
Yeah, Bill,
Bill,
Hazel and Bill.
and he talked about, he grew up there, and he talked about going to the tea house with a mug, and they had the mug, and he would bring soup home to his mother for lunch, and if you look in the deeds, you would find who owned that. I don't know their last name. Brown?
the tea house, okay,
Yeah, well,
Oh, I
not
don't
the
know.
tea
Oh.
house,
The house.
the house on Stone Court.
okay,
He had many stories, he was so interesting.
Yeah,
He said that they would go to the beach and they would have blocks of ice delivered to the house, put on the front stoop of the house. They'd come back from the beach and it looked like it was a block of ice. And they'd go like that and it would just fall to pieces. It would melt from the inside out.
oh, okay.
And he,
Oh my
every
goodness.
morning, his job was to go down to that place and get milk in his pitcher, because 2 pitchers came with the house. He had to go down and get the pitcher of milk and bring it back every morning. He was very interesting.
it would be interesting to, find out them through the deed or something, that family, because they had wonderful pictures.
Oh my gosh.
Okay,
On the wall of,
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it
Yeah.
was in the house.
one of them was a metal mug or something.
I venture to say I've probably talked or sold to most of you already, the folks that are interested here, but there are 8 houses. There are 2 on Bauer, 3 on Hueber, and 3 on Stone. I divided the tickets with 3 different color ribbons so that a third of the tickets sold will start on Bauer, a third will start on Hueber, and a third will start on Stone. So we'll stagger where the crowds are so not everybody's going to the same street right away. They are $40 a piece. There will be refreshments, and Graham and Terry will be here during the day, so you can also come. But basically, they're tied. You wear them on your buttonhole, and the docents will check off. We're almost all set. Mary's my docent chairman. She needs a couple more people, but it's designed, any house tour that we have worked on together, it's designed where you can see all the houses plus work a shift. So it's 12 to 2, somebody works 2 to 4, somebody works. Some folks are working 12 to 4 and not seeing any houses. But if you want a docent, you can, and you can still see all 8 homes.
So just so everybody knows, this is a 3-block walking tour.
Yes.
So we will also have guys walking around the neighborhood. at
With
the
straw
ends of
hats
the
on.
Streets with straw hats on, making suggestions to you about where you could park. Parking on the courts would not be a good idea because getting in and out would not be easy and there'd be a lot of foot traffic there.
The
So
gentleman with the straw hats, if you have a walker,
preferably the 3rd Avenue end, but either
Yes.
2nd or 3rd.
all around the bird sanctuary,
and walk in, yeah.
west of 3rd Ave, 2nd Avenue. You know, there's lots of places to park on 108, 109, 110, 111. Folks that live nearby, just walk, don't even bring your car, ride a bike. I mean, it's just within 3 blocks, so it's not far. Police are aware of our parking suggestions. They will probably be around as well. And, you know, as folks that live on the courts know, every couple of times this summer, somebody comes in the wrong way and goes the wrong way on the street. So we're trying to get guys on the other end too to say, no, you can't drive in there, you know, with directions to the homes and so forth.
Say the date and the hours again. So everybody-
June 27th, from 12 to 4. So, it's going to be lots of tickets. And you know, if you didn't come prepared with a check or cash today, museum is selling them every day from 9 to 12 except Sunday. And the Chamber of Commerce has them also. They have just now expanded their hours. They are closed, I believe, Tuesday and Wednesday, so they're open Thursday through Monday. So it's not just the weekend. So that's, and I believe they're there all day. Yes?
Can you buy them day of the event?
I would hope to say that they're all sold before the day of. We printed 400, and we're about halfway right now. And most of the tickets sell in the last 2 weeks. I have about 10 people that say, "Oh, I don't have my money. Bring me, and we'll make arrangements." What will probably happen is they'll be for sale here at the museum beforehand. Because we can only let about 10 to 15 people in a house at a time, there will be probably lines. So our docents that are working at the door are going to describe the outside, going to describe the gardens, describe, the kids that live here, what they've done to the house, what year they did it, that kind of thing, while you're waiting in line. So for them to have to sell tickets and do change and stuff too, that's a little bit much to ask of them.
No, I didn't mean at the house, but like here.
Here, yes, yeah. But traditionally, other house tours have had them for sale at the houses, but these are mini houses.
Big history, small house.
Small houses, big history. Doing tiny houses before tiny houses were cool.
That's true.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you for coming. I do have tickets for sale on the back.
How are you doing? How are you doing? You guys must be exhausted.
By 1917, well, it's
It looks so good.
Are we selling some?
Right now they're selling. Good. Some so far.
No, this is Jenny's mom, Ellen.
I've heard so much about Jenny. I'm the curator, Katie. I've heard so much about Jenny. So she's so well loved. Amazing. So didn't you just eat something for
Yeah, the sort of your honest tip.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Oh, good. That's so awesome. Oh, let me end this. No, we just did a little ad though. Mothers.